Welcome, everyone. Today I'll be giving a short presentation on the dual-edged nature of caffeine. Now, my name is Aaron M. Smith. I'm an MSW LCSWA. I just want to dedicate this presentation to the athlete on the field, to the coach on the sideline, and, well, the competitor in us all. Now, today we're going to be discussing four main topics. One, the culture, the challenge, the high performance grind that all of us experience on a day-to-day basis. Again, whether we're a professional in a field of our choosing, whether we are an athlete, amateur, or aspiring professional or pro, or a coach at any level, we need to understand the why behind the caffeine and the intentionality behind it. Two, the two-edged nature of caffeine and how many of us may be using it as a maladaptive coping mechanism relative to its adaptive potential, allowing us to flourish in our energy recovery pursuits that are vital for success on and off the field. And then we get into the science, the nerdy stuff, the neurochemistry of caffeine and the whys and the hows and the mechanisms, things of that nature. And how do we prevent the crash from a scientific standpoint? And then the rules for success, I'm going to give you three simple ways to which we are going to be able to overcome this maladaptive usage of caffeine that's embedded into our culture, embedded into our daily lives, our routine on a micro, meso, and even macro level, and how we can just seamlessly make it an adaptive force for us moving forward. It gives us a competitive edge over our competition. All right, let's get into it. First things first, let's discuss the pressures that our athletes are facing. They're facing not just performance pressures from the coach, those that are self-imposed, those that are deriving from a culture perspective, family, socially, academically, now to the coaches. Pressures that they have from a day-to-day basis. How do I get the team amped up? How do I get them ready to go? What's the game plan for today, for tomorrow, right? The family, how do I dedicate enough time? And how does caffeine fit as far as an adaptive coping mechanism versus a maladaptive coping mechanism? Are we blurring the lines between dedication relative to depletion? Where might that line be? Let's find out. The adaptive edge of caffeine is one that's intentional. There is thought, there is strategy. It's part of a coherent system that was thought of beforehand, as opposed to an afterthought, a break glass in case of emergency, something that is designed to enhance peak performance, as opposed to inhibit unwittingly, leading into the reactive, maladaptive edge of the drug that is caffeine. It is reactive. It's a sign of desperation, a system that has already failed or is in the process of, used to mask fatigue as opposed to promote natural energy processes of the body and to support recovery. It is actually detracting from or adding to. Now, the key question is here. Are we using caffeine to execute the game plan, or are we using it because the plan has already failed? Now let's get into the whys, the whats, the hows, the alluded to mechanisms of what makes caffeine, the drug, a dual-edged blade in terms of performance being high or performance being kneecapped. Adenosine. You might recognize it as the A in the body's universal energy source, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. When the body utilizes energy, it has essentially a combustion of ATP. Think of ATP as a full battery, and when the combustion happens, the A drops off, and now you are left with an empty battery or an empty battery canister. The body has to recycle this, it has to process this. Now, what does this feel like as we use our energy or ATP throughout the day? Well, we have an increased level of fatigue, which builds up over time, which is, well, sleep pressure. Now, when we sleep, that is no exception. We build up adenosine, and we wake up, we still have adenosine to process, which is why it is integral that we allow our bodies to naturally do this. Now, the crash effect, how does this occur? Well, adenosine, think of it like a key. Think adenosine receptors are body's natural ability to process this sleep pressure, this fatigue signal to the brain, this neurotransmitter. And that adenosine key fits perfectly into that keyhole as the adenosine receptor. Well, caffeine, it's an exact replica of that adenosine key. It fits right into the adenosine receptor, blocking adenosine out. There's one caveat here. And that's that caffeine will jump the line. And it has what many call sharp elbows, as it pushes ahead of the adenosine, jumps the line, and prevents or clogs up all the adenosine receptors, leaving us with the illusion, with the feeling that our tiredness is immediately gone away. But what is actually happening is all this caffeine, it's blocking the ability for the adenosine to be processed. We're still using energy. We're still burning through these ATP units of energy. Therefore, we're creating a backlog of energy that still needs to be processed by the body. And that is why we need to be aware of that, such that we are not starting our day blocking our body and creating this massive backlog. That is also why we need to be cognizant of the impact on sleep and performance, and how late night caffeine can impede our ability to rest and relax, as we have negated this sleep pressure by compensating with caffeine, which also enables our ability to lower our resting heart rate, the number one biometric for a high quality night of sleep. We know that caffeine is a upper. It elevates. What happens when we have too much caffeine? Our heart rate increases, for some exponentially. And even if you are someone that says, you know what, that's not me, I can still fall asleep. Well, you might be able to fall asleep, but the heart does not lie. A elevated heart rate, really anything above 60 beats per minute, is going to significantly reduce your ability to recover while you sleep, specifically your ability to jump into deep sleep. And it's going to make the amount of time that we are in deep sleep much shallower. And modern neurology is showing that if we go to bed with caffeine in our system, we could be reducing the amount of time our body spends in recovery mode, deep sleep, by upwards of 30%, if not more. Essentially making it such that our body is operating at 20 years our senior relative to our current biological genetic potential. Now, enough of the jargon. Let's just dive into those 3 straightforward rules that we can implement for ourselves, our families, our athletes, such that we can have higher quality lives, such that we can have optimum performance relative to our genetic, relative to what our environment barriers present themselves. Let's talk about the first one, delay morning caffeine. Why? As stated before, we do not want the caffeine to get in the way of our body's natural ability to process that tired chemical. We need to just wait. We can still have our cake and eat it too. We can still have our caffeine and enjoy it as well. Simply wait 90 minutes after waking up before consuming caffeine. This allows the body's natural cycles to take effect instead of chasing symptoms. 2, Set a caffeine cutoff time so that way our heart rates, maybe unbeknownst to us, are not elevated when it becomes time for bed. As stated, caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours, really 5 to 6 hours, meaning quarter life is between 10 and 12 hours. Let's use that intentionally. Now, I said 1 o'clock in that slide. Notice the squiggly. That is vital because it's relevant to when our bedtime is. Hopefully we have a bedtime within reason. We want to shoot for 10 to 12 hours before bedtime. That's our cutoff. If we're going to bed at midnight, simple terms, if you want to play it extra safe, 12. If you want to be a little risky, 2 p.m. But make it person-centered, tailor it for you. 3, strategic performance use. Let's use caffeine. Let's reframe how we view caffeine. Again, instead of breaking glass reactively, let's be proactive. Let's have a plan. Let's use it to enhance performance, not inhibit. Let's restructure how we view caffeine. Instead of using it as a substitute for a bad night's sleep or to jumpstart the day the second our feet hit the floor, let's use it as a way that we can use such that we can use it for peak performance that is built on intentional recovery. And it's part of the management system as we hone our recovery skills. In order to hone our skills, we need to know how to sharpen that blade. Otherwise, we might damage it. Let's arm ourselves with the knowledge so we can use this coping mechanism adaptively versus maladaptively. Let's foster proper caffeine management. Let's master how we consume it so we can regain control over our energy, over our mental clarity, over our recovery, instead of being on this negative death spiral to burnout. Let's make a pledge today. Let's start mastering this mechanism. Let's take this knowledge and make it a part of our team's identity, giving us an advantage over the opposition on the field and the obstacles in front of us in everyday life. Thank you.